Hey everyone, and welcome back to another World of Warcraft Battle for Azeroth video. Today it's one that I'm actually pretty damn excited to cover because it's actually something I got a lot of requests about because, well, it seems to be actually quite exciting. So, Demonology Warlock was one of the specs that was revamped in World of Warcraft Legion. That revamp was certainly a controversial one. While it does have its players, it is, it's one of the specs that's perhaps a little bit more divisive. Now, in Battle for Azeroth, they are implementing what pretty much is a revamp of how this spec functions. And my initial impressions of it are that it's a really cool direction. I'm enjoying it quite a bit, so I thought I would share that with you. Of course, this is the alpha, so everything is subject to change. This is very early, and this is looking at a reworked spec, so can you expect this to directly compare one-to-one against the spec that's coming out of Legion? Very well established, very well designed, and not needing many tweaks? Probably not, because this is just the basis of what we will eventually get. Plus, if I open up my character sheet here, you can see I've got a pretty low amount of stats. I'm item level 190, I'm a level 110 with no artifact, I've got no Azerite gear, which means this is like the slowest version of the spec that you could ever play. But nonetheless, I have been having a lot of fun, so let's just dive right into it. And, well, you do see some abilities which which we know about, right? We've got Call Dreadstalkers, 2 Soul Shards, summons 2 Dreadstalkers in, they, jump in, start attacking your target, fair enough. We've also got Hand of Gul'dan, 1 to 4 Soul Shards, does a bunch of damage, and then for, up to 4 Soul Shards per shard, it will spawn in some Wild Imps, and you can see these Wild Imps here. Now, the Wild Imps have a different mechanic from what they really have in Legion. Basically, in Legion, what you were doing is you were summoning all these guys in, maybe you were also summoning in your Grimoire of Service, and then you were using Demonic Empowerment, which would increase the power of all of your demons. It would make them do more damage. The thing is, you felt pretty disconnected from that damage, and to a lot of players, it was just, you're doing a flat rotation, so, you summon your demons, you empower them. And that's kind of it. Well, here the way that things work with your Wild Imps, of course, because the Wild Imps don't stick around forever. If we just look here, we have Molten Core. So when your Wild Imps expend all of the energy, they've got a 15% chance to combust into a ball of energy and giving you a stack of Molten Core. Molten Core reduces the cast time of Soulfire by 75%, maximum 4 stacks. Now, things are a bit odd with Soulfire. What it actually does is it does a whole bunch of damage and generates 2 Soul Shards. Right now, the tooltip does not say that it does that, so don't really care about that tooltip right now. Basically, it gives you some soul shards. What do those shards do? They get you more imps. And basically, you have a humongous, herd of imps following you around the place, and it's pretty damn cool. Plus, this is like a default 5-second cast with the 75% cast time reduction of Molten Core, which can be made instant with the overloaded talent. However, that talent's currently not functioning, so it doesn't actually work, but it does just change up the pace of the spec and make you feel a bit more connected to your damage. Plus, we've got a bunch of cool new things. We've got Demon Commander, we've got our Vile Fiend, we've got our Bile Scourge Bombers, and yeah, we just need to show you all of this stuff, I suppose. So, to show you the basics, we're just going to enter some combat. I've got my imps here. Right now, my imps spawn because of Inner Demons, so normally you've got a cooldown called Imp Swarm, which just summons a whole bunch of imps around you. Well, Inner Demons basically just makes some of these imps passively spawn in, so that's fine. We're going to start off with calling in our Dreadstalkers. Okay, so now we're going to get some more Soul Shards, going to work our way up to 4, then we're going to do Hand of Gul'dan to get even more Wild Imps. And yeah, we now have quite a few Wild Imps. We just got a Molten Core stack. So you can see, here's my Molten Core stack. If I do my Soulfire, it's not a 5-second cast. It just gained me a whole bunch of Soul Shards, which I'm maybe now going to put into a Hand of Gul'dan. Okay, sort of missed my timing with the Dreadstalkers there, but we're more just going through this slowly to show you the mechanics of how the new version of this spec works. And right now, that pretty much is the core of it. So we are pretty much just using our Dreadstalkers on cooldown and then putting everything else into summoning our Wild Imps via Hand of Gul'dan. Then when those imps die, it feeds into the Soulfire system, giving me a stack of Molten Core, which lets me get even more Soul Shards to summon in, even more Wild Imps via Hand of Gul'dan. And what you find is that this kind of all feeds into itself. Now I'm going to do Demon Commander. So we'll do that now. And that empowers a whole bunch of, empowers my demons for 15 seconds and also increases the duration of time which they're active for by 15 seconds. It's a little bit like the demonic empowerment of of Legion, but it's been turned into a cooldown. You can see right now he's doing Shadow Bolts. Look at the amount of demons that I've got going on here. It's the sort of thing where right now, while it might not be, say, the most complex rotation in the world, where I've got two of these fast Soulfires giving me loads of shards, sort of feels nice in the pacing there. So while right now it's not the most complex spec in the earth, you know what? It's actually really satisfying summoning in an army of demons. Who would have thought it? And it actually successfully feels different from like a Beast Mastery Hunter. It feels, to me, a lot more of a fun basis for a spec than what we previously had in the Legion version of the Demonology Warlock. So that's kind of the core. For me, the thing that really does elevate it, I suppose, is Soulfire. I think that will especially be true once once Overloaded is actually working and then your Soulfires are flying out instantly. I think that will be fantastic for the feeling of the pace of this spec. But other than that, that's kind of like our core bread and butter, but we do have a whole bunch of talents that are really worth talking about. One thing I do want to show you, though, is Drain Life received its new animation, so you can kind of see you've got like the Void energy stuff turning into Fel energy. At least assuming Void is still purple. I mean, who knows exactly how all that is with the lore, but it's a pretty damn cool looking version of Drain Life anyway. So let's head back in here and take a brief look at the talents. Now, unfortunately, a lot of these I can't actually show you because they're not really implemented or a bit buggy, but most of them, like, they're interesting to talk about, so as much as this might not be a visual feast, it sure will be interesting. Okay, well, let's start off with the most boring one, Doom. Inflicts impending doom upon the target, doing a bunch of damage after 30 seconds. Yep, kind of boring. Demonic Calling, you've probably noticed me using this, so Shadow Bolt has a 20% chance to make your next call Dreadstalkers cost no soul shards. For me, I was using that because I wanted more soul shards into Wild Imps because I thought it was fun to have a stupid big army of imps. We also do have Demonic Strength. Your Felguard deals 50% increased damage, and the cooldown of Fellstorm is reduced by 5,000%. So, yeah, basically, he's just doing Fellstorm more, is kind of what's going on there with Demonic Strength. Now, when we start to move down, though, we get the more interesting ones. So, we've got Riders. Hand of Gul'dan has a 25% chance per soul shard spent to summon an additional Wild Imp. Great if you want loads of Wild Imps. We've got Power Siphon. Now, this one could be super cool. Instantly sacrifice up to 4 Wild Imps to generate 4 charges of Molten Core. Now, assuming that this will sacrifice the weakest, like, least duration Wild Imps, right now it doesn't actually function, that could be a really interesting mechanic because it could play into Overloaded when those Molten Core empowered Soulfires, if they are instant, then you're just going to be firing off loads of stuff here. So I think Power Siphon is really cool. Now, Summon Vile Fiend doesn't actually work, but it does summon in the Vile Fiend, so I will show you that in a bit. When we move on, we've got Demon Skin, Burning Rush, and Dark Pact, so not really much to talk about there. Overloaded, we've already covered. Demonic Strength infuses your Felguard with Demonic Power, increasing all damage it deals by 100% and causing it to use a bonus attack every 5 seconds for 20 seconds. One thing that would be interesting is using this in combination with Demonic Strength, and then in combination with your Demon Commander, which would really pump up the power of your Felguard. And then we've got Bile Scourge Bombers, which is another really cool AoE. It summons in a bunch of bat things from the sky, like the Legion cinematic, and they just bombard the area. It's really cool. Now, in the 75 tier, we've got Dark Fury, which reduces the cooldown of Shadow Fury by 15 seconds. Shadow Fury is actually baseline, I believe, so that's pretty sweet. Mortal Coil, pretty much, we know what that is. Same goes for Demonic Circle. When we move on to the 90 tier, we've got Grimoire of Synergy, so damage done by you or your demon has a 10% chance to grant the other one 10% increased damage for 15 seconds. We've got Demonic Consumption. This one is very cool. Your Demon Commander now destroys and absorbs the remaining power of all of your Wild Imps to empower himself. So, if you're using this with as many Wild Imps out as possible, you're going to have some pretty damn tasty results. And then we've got Grimoire of Service, which just gives you a second, sort of one of your main demons you can summon in as a cooldown. Now, when we move on to the 100 tier Inner Demons, we've already covered that. Soul Conduit, every soul shard you spend has a 15% chance to be refunded. And then the one that I'm really sad that it doesn't work, but it seems epic, and that's Nether Portal. 3-minute cooldown. You tear open a portal into the Twisting Nether for 20 seconds. Each time you spend soul shards, you also command a demon from the Nether to come out and fight for you. What to me would be really interesting is how does the Nether Portal ability synergize with your demon commander? So, is there something from the Nether Portal which is really powerful, and then you use your Demon Commander and you're kind of just going ham? Anyway, time to show you some of those other demon summons that we have as cooldowns. So the Bile Scourge Bombers, look at these guys. So you call them in, and they pretty much rain down from the sky and do a stack of damage. So that's pretty cool. Now then there's our Vile Fiend. So we'll bring this guy out. Not yet implemented. I'm pretty sure he just runs in and he doesn't actually have any abilities, so he's not a particularly exciting guy at the minute. And I suppose the next thing is just to show you the Demon Commander that actually sucks away all of my Hand of Gul'dan guys. So what I'm going to do here is actually just not bother with calling Dreadstalkers, just so I can get a whole bunch of these guys up. So yeah, we'll just have 2 groups, and then I'll use Demon Commander, and what we'll see is... well, he sucks a whole bunch of them in, he gets empowered, he does more damage, and you can see this guy really is doing a crazy amount of damage. And you know, I've got to say, I really like this new feel for the spec. For me, you overall do feel a lot more in control, or at least like there's more direct damage that you or yourself are doing because of Soulfire, which I very much like. You still have the cool idea of you summoning in all of your demons. One issue then, I suppose, in Legion, and this kind of tied into how the AoE worked, is when you would summon in a Hand of Gul'dan, the wild imps would be around the target, and that was basically because your AoE ability caused AoE to pulse out from your demons. Well, that is no longer there, and there currently isn't a replacement, which is a bit odd for your AoE, but having these guys actually be around you makes a lot of sense, and I know it's a game feel thing, but I think those game feel things are really important, and I suppose the mechanic of generating molten cores and using my Soulfire and how there's a feedback loop there that sort of goes back into more Hand of Gul'dans, I think that's far more interesting than the demonic empowerment mechanic that Legion had. So I'm extremely happy to see how this is sort of turning out. Now, we don't have a massive amount of stats on these characters. We don't have a massive amount of Azerite gear. So what I'm imagining is that when we're, say, level 120 and I'm doing an update video on this, we're going to have a far higher, faster pace. Now, this at a faster pace, to me, seems like an extremely cool idea, because you can even see right now, I'm level 110. Stuff isn't completely crazy, and I already had a big stack of wild imps out. I imagine that's going to be pretty mental when you hit max level, which will be really fun, because each one of those imps, when it dies, is a 15% chance of a Molten Cord Soulfire, which then is really cool when you're combining it with, say, where are we? When you're combining that with Overload to make your Soulfires instant cast. Maybe it feels like, I don't know, just generally instant cast stuff for me is really fun. You've probably picked that up from my Fire Mage video that I did recently. So that's kind of what's going on with this. Also, the mana mechanics, where you're trying to life tap all the time to get mana back, that's gone. Thankfully, as much as I thought it was a cool idea, yeah, maybe it didn't translate to the best gameplay. So overall, that is a brief alpha look at what seems to be happening with the Demonology Warlock revamp. Essentially, we've got some awesome stuff from Legion, like Hand of Gul'dan and all your wild imps and your Dreadstalkers and summoning in these demon guys. We've got that demonic empowerment. They've realized, you know what, that's actually maybe a bit more interesting as a cooldown, so it's not dominating the entire spec all the time. So they've taken some of those good things, they've brought in some good things from the past, and I think they've mixed it all together into a spec that I genuinely am quite interested in playing a lot more of. So there you go, that's it for this video. Yeah, pretty good news, but of course we just need to wait and see how things pan out over time. Anyway, I hope you enjoyed watching this. Let me know what your thoughts are on this new form of a Demonology Warlock down in the comments. And yeah, with that guys, I will see you next time.